Oh, part 13, all about the trivium. All right. There we're adjusted. We're ready. Part 14 of the Natural Law Seminar. Mark Passio. Technically, we're on part 2 of 3. And I highly recommend going back, watching it on your own so I'm not interrupting all the important parts. We are going into parts of... we just came from the trivium.
Natural law. Now, in my extended seminar, which goes over a 6-week class of lessons, I get into these principles deeply in an extended form. We're not going to do that today because time doesn't allow. I'm going to briefly touch on each one. Okay? The word principles, let's define it. Principle comes from the Latin noun principia. Principia means first, foremost, leading, chief, or most necessary. It is that which matters most. It is the first things that must be understood before anything else can be understood. Principles have to come first. And this is the problem. Our society does not put principles first. It puts trivialities first, and we're no longer a society that even cares about principles or first things. So first things first. First things or principles have to come first. So let's look at what the principles that underlie natural law. These are the things that are most important. That's what principles should mean to people. If we ask people to define what a principle is, first thing they should say, that's the most important thing. The most important thing in my life. Now, when in the natural law seminar, we did a homework assignment. We asked people what the most important thing was to them. Very few responded with principles. Most people responded with saying that people or the family was the number one response.
He has another social experiment, and it turns out that security over principles and ethics is what most people look for in judging friends or partners. But it's very interesting. And then I tried that a few times, and it actually was accurate. That what was important was how well off they could take care of you. And as Mark would point out, hardly anybody wanted to know if they were moral and ethical. And without that in place, nothing else matters. You're going to meet at an impasse eventually. You're going to be like, hey, wait, I can't see that. And you compromise, or it gets, it ends. It's very interesting.
The familial connection was more important to them than principles. Now, when people hear me say that that's backwards, they'll say, how cold are you? That's so cold, okay? What I'm telling you is that the familial connection, no matter what it is, between a mother and a son, a mother and a daughter, a father and a son, father and a daughter, husband and wife, doesn't matter as much as principles. I'm not telling you they don't matter at all. I'm telling you you have to put principles first. Otherwise, those relationships are just meaningless. They don't really have any real value unless they're based upon principles first, which is why so many relationships are dysfunctional. Principles have to come first before you can even build a solid relationship with another human being. So, let's look at what some of the principles of how natural laws work first before we can actually find out what the expressions of these laws are in our lives, which will be the next section. These are what I call the general principles of natural law. Natural law is expressed through 7 basic underlying principles, plus what I have referred to as an 8th or hidden principle, which you hear very few other researchers, even people who are studying this from the occult perspective, who are studying this from the consequentialism perspective, you very hear them incorporate the 8th and all-encompassing principle, which I'll get to last here. This 8th principle, which I call the lost principle, binds all the other 7 principles together. All right?
It's like the One Ring.
Binds all the other 7 principles together. All right? These principles together constitute a master key through which universal wisdom including the knowledge of the requirements to obtaining what we desire, is then unveiled or de-occulted. When people ask me, well, what do you consider yourself in your performance of presenting what you present? I tell them, I consider myself a de-occultist. I'm no longer an occultist. I'm a de-occultist. I'm attempting to take this information out of hiding. It's been hidden. The hiding of it is destroying the fabric of our society and putting us into bondage. It needs to come out and be non-hidden. It needs to be unveiled and shared widely and freely with anybody who's capable of accepting it and comprehending it now. Because we're not in a position where we could wait longer. We're at the...
All right, so right there is why we're here. Ange and I talked. I made sure I'm not monetizing any of these. I'm not trying to exploit Mark. I'd like Mark's message and information to get out to at least one other person. Why I'm so grateful for Marty. Maybe he's seen some of it. At the very least, if I feel like I shared this seminar with him, maybe it's enough knowledge that it'll get shared with one other person. And it's a small step. But I do believe in it. I believe in it with the sort of passion that Mark has. And I think he put that passion in me. Never once have I felt led astray, because the knowledge is so useful and so, useful. I mean, it's so not cited, and it just, it's like I can't blame the ruler if I improperly measure with it. It's like Mark gives me the toolkit. The rest is up to me to see what I can build, but I now have the proper toolkit to build whatever I want to build. And, you know, I've said it's security, safety, love, and care. But that's what has been manifested. Little extras on the side, but mostly longevity, care, health. And trust me, never had health insurance in my whole life. I shouldn't have health. I'm pretty sure I know where that comes from, and that's the most I'll say about it.
Because we're not in a position where we could wait longer. We're at the precipice. Okay, there is a moral obligation to bring this information to the public now. Okay, so I consider myself a de-occultist. One who takes things out of hiding and presents them openly. These are the 7 general principles of natural law. Many people who have studied some variants of occultism may recognize these as what are known as the Hermetic principles. Hermetic essentially comes from...
It's really, I see that last one there is going to rock the boat for certain current event-based individuals. No, I don't think there's going to be a binary there. Exceptions to the rule, of course, but not that ideology that's being pushed right now.
Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great one, as he was referred to in the ancient Greek mystery traditions. Okay, he was considered a messenger of the gods. He brought the wisdom of the gods down to humanity. Okay, in the ancient Egyptian and Cometian traditions, he was the scribe of the gods known as Thoth. All right, he has other incarnations as well. But the Hermetic tradition is named such because it's hermetically sealed, like natural law is. Natural law is hermetically sealed. It is binding principles that are immutable. They are laws that are in operation that cannot be changed. Hence, they are hermetically sealed.
Now, do we follow that part? Because that's the part where I think people get confused. Because you can't define it and see it doesn't mean it's not there. But if all of the secret occulted and mystic education systems throughout all time believed in it. Are you just saying what? Nah, it's not real for me because CNN said so. This is that appeal to authority that in right now, I think it's actually important to bring up. One of our biggest problems is we think, my dad's one of them. We try to tell him stuff, you know, a first-year doctor that hates life, just there for the money, their word means more than our word. Even though the knowledge might be more beneficial from my brother and I. Why is that? Because he has a misplaced sense of authority, and all of his actions appeal to authority's control. It's a damn shame. I, thank God, broke free from that, because I could have been just a carbon copy of his operating system, and I'm grateful I'm not.
There are laws that are in operation that cannot be binding principles that are immutable. There are laws that are in operation that cannot be changed. Hence, they are hermetically sealed. So these 7 general principles, they are mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, which is a huge one, which we'll be getting into, and gender. So I'm going to briefly describe what each of these are and what they are about. The principle of mentalism states that the all, everything in creation, is actually a manifestation of mind. The all is mind. Okay? What this means is everything that happens has to be a result of a mental state which preceded it. Everything. For anything to exist, thoughts had to form first, and then they formed the physical reality after. The universe itself is a mental construct of the Creator. Thoughts lead to the manifestation of things and events. Thoughts create conditions.
We got to go back because that huge, bold statement just drifts off his tongue and leaves. But I mean, this is where getting into Kobe's comment when I'm done here. And Kobe would like us to just follow Jesus and only Jesus. Thing is the power of Jesus is wielded by men now. Here is the power of Jesus in the form of the toolkit. It's all the same, because if the good vibration, frequency, energy, manifestation, creation, it can't be denied for the power that it wields, its good energies. If that's the set of laws that your favorite deity is endorsing, you're cool. If the darkness and the negative side is used to control others, you're probably on the wrong side of things. But getting out of the cult that puts a single name on a pedestal and thinks that that's the only answer, you are controlled, unfortunately. The hand of man is in everything. Why? Because it was all created in the mind first, and then someone created a system to either free or bind their peers. Weird how it's that simple, but it's that simple.
The universe itself is a mental construct of the Creator. Thoughts lead to the manifestation of things and events. Thoughts create conditions. Thoughts create things and conditions. They cannot just magically manifest themselves. Thought comes first. Thoughts create our state of existence and the quality of our experience here on earth, ultimately. Therefore, be responsible for everything. We should be responsible for everything that we create by being responsible for that which we think. Because the thought...
And there's my first shortcoming for sure. Definitely create too much chaos in my mind and give too much thought to what could be. Well, the problem is the pre-existing conditions don't exist for what could be. only the existence of the time machine, that's not really real, so why do I put thought into it? Oof, that's the brain imbalance. Focused on one side of the system or the other. The controller or wish to be controlled. But definitely, that is one of the things. And I remember a time in my life when the movies and the music were what I was working on. I couldn't even think of anything else. And it all came true. It shouldn't have. I think I'm a pretty good example of manifesting things that shouldn't be. Uh, Hard work isn't always enough. And then the skill set was definitely not enough. So the heights we got to, just the band alone, that is something else. I'm pretty sure it was willed into existence. And it was the only thing I could think about for those, almost a decade. So, yeah. I have to work on creating in my mind first. That's my takeaway from this. I don't know if that helps anyone out there. That's how I would apply it. I'd be like, well, I'm not focusing on what could something. See, I needed a different path to get what I want. I need to think about creating what I want in the path I'm on from the here and now forward. Stop dwelling back there. But I think a lot of people are trapped back there.
Responsible for everything. We should be responsible for everything that we create by being responsible for that which we think. Because the thought processes are what are driving the behaviors. People behave the way they do because they have certain belief systems embedded in the mind and running like a program. Their thoughts and their emotions are driving their actions. So the behavior is not magically suddenly going to just change. The thoughts and emotions have to change because they're the driving force behind the behavior. That's when reality will change. See, people don't want to hear that once again.
No, because Hollywood, Mark. Hollywood convinced you, movies and books convinced you that those without the knowledge can stumble ass backwards into the magical conjurings. Get it? That just by showing up and holding the magic trinket, you are imbued with its power. But if the pre-existing conditions do not exist, the power isn't going to flow through you. You're not really going to know how to use the specialized hammer drill in a proper application. You're not going to be able to wield Harry Potter's wand. For you, it's just a stick. Now, Hollywood has convinced you of another thing altogether. That magic is a lightning shooting from your fingertips, not a preset of conditions put in place to manifest reality around you. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're getting some of it around here. So whether Mark's details or my from the hip explanation is helping, I hope. But I'm pretty sure the evidence of these things is everywhere. And we're gonna go deal with a huge cult of personality in the form of advanced Christianity. And that's coming up next. And I know that he is based in love and care. That the young man just wants to be part of something and believes in things greater than himself. But he also believes in the control system that places him and his on a pedestal. And I would argue that the evidence of a monotheistic pedestal that's being worshipped by the planet isn't leaning his way anymore. So I would have to argue that those monotheistic systems are all control systems because none of them have freed the people. None of them. They all enslave further. And that is my problem. That's my problem with organized religion right there. They all bind further.
Have to change because they're the driving force behind the behavior. That's when reality will change. See, people don't want to hear that once again. They don't.
Because it's in you is a personal relationship with your creator. And then if you understand natural law, the only thing left is the process of freeing yourself and others. That's all that's left. That's what the universe put in there for you. Corrupted. So corrupted.
Want to hear, if you want to change reality, you yourself have to change the way you think, because the way you think is not conducive to the requirements for getting what you say you want. They're doing the exact opposite of that in many cases. So that's the principle of mentalism. The principle of correspondence states that that which is above is similar or like to that which is below. So what this means is that which is below, and that which is below is like to that which is above. It's a mirror, okay? The above is like the below is like the above, all right? The above, in this case, is the macrocosm, okay? The laws of the very large thing.
So, to clarify, this comes up a lot. I believe this is one of the huge, well, it looks like the law of correspondence is probably where I'm stuck entirely because of the corruption of the as above, as below moral relativism. Now, I don't know if this comes up here, so I have to. This is from Passio as well. So there's the set of rules, but then there's how rules have been twisted. And the as above, as below, for myself, is mostly interpreted as a moral relativism thing. That, and hopefully it's in this section, but I can't remember. I think it's its own couple hours of discussion, to be honest.
In this case, is the macrocosm, okay? The laws of the very large thing.
And then I think I have made it a little farther this time. I would have to see the laws of correspondence as gravity versus quantum. Quantum physics versus Einstein's relativity science. And just like the missing link, the unified field theory as the missing probably on the other side of reality is where that formula exists, wherever we phase out to. But if I can start looking at it like that, maybe I could free up my mind, because my mind instantly focuses on moral relativism.
Okay, the laws that govern the creation, which we consider is seemingly outside of ourselves. We know at the deepest level that it's not, that we're one with it, but we perceive this as out here.
Yep.
The laws that govern the large aspects of things. So the macrocosm, or the very large, the totality of everything, and the microcosm, which is the very small, or the individuated units that comprise the whole in their aggregate, okay? They are reflections of each other. They cannot be separated from each other. As one goes, the other goes. The universe is actually a holographic system.
I wasn't able to comprehend this first time around. Holographic system. Now I do understand that if you take one part of the hologram, cut it up, it's a whole hologram still. It's all of it is in the part. Yeah, I think I can. I mean, now it's just how do you get the dark occultists and the control system and the moral relativists out of your head when they make up part of your, let's say, devil, your personification of evil to, well, I know I have to fight against this. If at the very least I do anything in this world, your moral relativism has to be put on Front Street. That coworker, loved one, reflection in the mirror. Because getting the moral, ethical side of it down has been the hardest as a wayward youth who never wanted to grow up. It's tough. Sometimes morals are damn tough. But this isn't about that at all, is it?
Goes, the other goes. The universe is actually a holographic system, okay? It's a hologram is an image, okay? You pass a laser through it, and it then projects a 3D image, okay? It's like a flat image, and it projects a three-dimensional image. But the aspect, why they call it a holo, like holistic, hologram, holistic image, is if you break a hologram into multiple components by cutting it. So if I take a hologram and I cut it in 4 pieces, you don't have a quarter of the image on one part of the hologram and a quarter on the other and a quarter on the third and a quarter on the fourth. You have 4 whole images that only lose their resolution by a quarter, okay? So everything is contained in all the smaller parts.
Oh, okay? And then the lose their resolution or energy, vibration, frequency from the quantum to the cosmic. Okay.
That's like the reality that we're living in. Our universe is a hologram.
Okay, and the outbursts would be notes. I hope you understand that the outbursts and the reflections would be the notes I would take. I just outburst and reflect upon it with you so I can try to drive it home. Hopefully it's never been a put on, right? I would like to absorb more of this seminar while we're here doing it. And I keep saying we, but really, you know what I mean? It's push and record in an empty room by myself doing it. Just hoping. Putting it out there for the universe, you know what I mean? Creating the vibration, creating the frequency. I can't do anything about how it's consumed, but I can be part of the creation process. Back to Bark. I got to shut up now.
So everything is contained in all the smaller parts.
Sorry.
Okay? That's like the reality that we're living in. Our universe is a holographic one. So the universe is inside the individual. And the entire universe is like an individual. They're reflections of each other. To know the workings of the individual will help lead us to an understanding of the macrocosmic laws. Similarly, to learn the macrocosmic laws will help us to learn the way that consciousness within the individual functions. These two things cannot be separated from each other. And once again, as I said near the beginning, that's what occulted knowledge is. The knowledge of the occult is how the microcosmic world works, which is the individuated consciousness, and how the macrocosmic world works, which is natural law. So the other part of the principle of correspondence is that our reality is also fractal in nature. Now, if you studied fractals, these are self-similar mathematical generated patterns, okay? We see this eternal monarchy.
Shit, damn it.
A short, like 10-minute clip. It's called, that's what occulted knowledge is. The knowledge of the occult is how the microcosmic world works, which is the individuated consciousness, and how the macrocosmic world works, which is natural law. So the other part of the principle of correspondence is that our reality is also fractal.
Okay, this bad pause. Sorry about that. The Mandelbrot set. For me to understand it, it took me down the Mandelbrot set rabbit hole, and I watched the deep scans. The repeating patterns and depth. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. Then applying that to that tree over there, the branch system as its rivers. Oh, it's very this section was very enlightening for me. From a I don't get the math, but I really like the idea perspective.
In nature. Now, if you studied fractals, these are self-similar mathematical generated patterns, okay? We see this through things like Fibonacci sequence in mathematics, and this is repeated endlessly throughout nature. Okay, so you look at the structure of the atom, and it's similar to the structure of the solar system, which is similar to the structure of the galaxy. They work the same way. They look the same. You pull back enough, you'll keep seeing the same pattern repeat. Everybody ever see the movie that was done in, I think, the 1970s or 80s? It's a short, like 10-minute clip. It's called Powers of 10. Has anybody ever seen this? A couple people. Watch this movie, Powers of 10, and you'll understand what I'm talking about when I say that the universe is fractal in nature. Brilliant movie. It will blow your mind. Real short, 10 minutes long, something like 9 or 10 minutes long. They basically zoom up into the cosmos to show you how everything is self-similar.
Yeah. It starts, I think, at a person on a blanket on a, park. And then, and I think it was a lens, maybe a lens manufacturer, someone did it. I've seen that. It's very good. You should look that up. We're already stomping on Mark's toes by using all his material. We probably don't want to throw that movie into this mix too, just to tempt the copyright system. As always, please go support Mark. It's the best I can do. It's not like I ask permission, but I'm staying on point, right? It is about, it's the least I can do for everything he gave me.
Then they zoom down into the cells of a human being and in the atoms that comprise the hand and cells of the hand, and show you how everything is similar there, all the way down to the atomic level, okay, and the subatomic level. So the universe is both holographic, meaning that the whole is contained in the parts, and vice versa, and it is
that movie, or as I pulled out yesterday, grab yourself. Let's say The Elegant Universe. There is a readable book. It's made for regular people to read. Very interesting. And mixing a little knowledge of the quantum into the reality you live in really opens your eyes. The everything is empty space. Oh, it feels real. Oh boy, does it feel real. It's just not. Frozen time? They're starting to think. I mean, with the phasing and all. I mean, what is it? Matter frozen, and it's so interesting. And I never really thought about it this way. I think we've come far enough on the channel that I can let the moral relativist go.
Fractal or self-similar across all scales of its existence. That's the principle of correspondence. The principle of vibration simply states that there is no such thing as rest, as dead or non-motion, okay? Death, in that sense, is an illusion, because true death would be the cessation of all motion and energy. There is no such thing. It doesn't exist. You cannot go anywhere in creation where something is at complete rest, okay? And I joke around about this. Barb tells me funny stories when she comes home from work, and she's trying to, enlighten some of the other RNs that she works with. And she was trying to explain to one of the other nurses, that desk has atoms in it, and they're not at rest. They're like in crazy, chaotic motion, especially the, electron clouds of the atom. And if you look at it at a deep enough level, you would see it's like, chaos going on, and it's all kinds of motion happening, seemingly at random. And the other nurse goes, Barb, you're so crazy. What I say to that is, how could you have made it to nursing school and not ever have even considered the concept of the atom? Right. And it's amazing. She actually thinks perceived stillness is actual stillness, and didn't comprehend. If you zoom into that,
That's
with a
okay.
powerful-
It does match up. So it looks like possibly matter frozen in time in like a quantum field. Probably a no. This is if you've ever seen what the bleep is going on or whatever, a lot of it's crazy, but the quantum physics movie. But there is these ideas now that it exists because we believe it exists. Without the focused energy keeping it in place, it would just not be. And it's super interesting. I'm telling you, I'm not pulling this out of my ass. All opinions for entertainment purposes only, but I think you could find this information that matter frozen in a state, but instantly ready to be done. The tree ready to not be a tree no more. Me ready not to be me no more. It's very interesting. But here we're back on an area that I've been... the rabbit holes are aplenty, and the knowledge base is growing every day on this stuff.
Off microscope, you're going to see all kinds of motion, and nothing's at rest. And she thought Barb was the weird one for trying to explain that to her. Okay, so there is no such thing as true rest. It doesn't exist.
We're going to have to stop there because of length. We're going to continue with nothing is at a state of rest right when we get back.